I built this business the old-fashioned way. Hard work and a whole lot of spreadsheets.
Yeah, about that, I upgraded us to Odoo. Odoo puts everything we need, sales, inventory, accounting, on one connected platform. No more juggling systems, no more headaches.
So it all works together?
Exactly.
Odoo is the all-in-one business software that makes running and passing on a business easier than ever. Take your business into the next generation. Try Odoo free at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Everyone, and welcome back to Real Estate, Real and Unscripted with Nicole. I am excited to have you all here with me today. Thank you for joining. Today's episode is going to be with a longtime friend and mover of mine, Manny Moussignac, who is the owner of All Things Moving and Storage. And in the spirit of the show being all about education, it was a reminder, the purpose of the show is to be educational about every single thing that touches the real estate ecosystem. And movers have bad raps, right? There's a lot of stuff around moving for 100%. Sure. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here and helping drop some knowledge. And tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Nicole. I know when you presented the idea, I was like, it's a no-brainer because you actually take a lot of pride in the industry. And for me, I like networking and connecting with agents that do take pride. So it's good to hear that you want to do this. So myself, my name's Manny. Obviously, you know, I've been in the industry now 6 years, going on 7. And I started in the industry where I didn't even know I was going to do it. I actually started off with financial services. I did that for about 4 years, and I thought that was my career. I fell in love with it, was an engineer major that fell into finance. And when I tell people that story, they're like, what? How'd you do that? Mm-hmm. But you know, through the experience, I fell in love with sales, marketing, connecting with people, educating people. And, you know, that became my career path. Eventually, I burned out because insurance is a cutthroat business. And, you know, eventually I said, you know what, it's time for me to look at something different. And I stumbled across sales and moving. Thought I was like, what am I doing? But then I saw the potential and I said, you know what, if I could save enough money, I could eventually start my own company and scale into what I want to do, which was real estate, funny enough. Mm-hmm. And that didn't happen because I really fell in love with moving.
Yeah. And you crushed it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you were a young guy. Like right. When I realized, I was like, oh my God, he's like killing it. Like I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, 100%. So I was like, you know what, let me just continue to pursue this. And it was like a culmination of all my experiences that came together. And with insurance, I was young. So trying to convince people on their finances being under 30 was an uphill climb.
Right.
And coming into moving, I didn't have to create a need, because the need was already there.
Recession proof. That's the thing that I think, I share that with people when you're going to college, when you're getting a degree, when you're going into business of sorts. Like, You got to get into stuff that's recession proof, stuff that always has to happen.
Right. And that's when I got excited because I was like, okay, with insurance, I had to create the need. With this, I didn't. And I fell in love with it. And it just became a game of how can I become the most valuable person when moving comes top of mind? Because it doesn't happen often. I think the average is like every 8 years somebody actually moves. So if that's the case, when that opportunity comes, I just want to be the best option. And I fell in love with becoming that person for the industry.
So tell me, jumping off of that thought, I'm very big on being different, changing the game, doing things differently. I got in this business throughout the rule book and did it my way. Tell me about you. What makes you different? What is your special sauce that you bring to the table differentiates you and, makes you a better option, or just things that you're doing differently in this space?
So I would think the best way to answer that question is I really pride myself in like that personalized experience. Because going back to that point that every person, the average person has moved for 8 years, I go into it understanding that might be the case. And in that situation, it's probably the most stressful time they've had in a while. Mm-hmm. And statistically, it's actually the second most stressful day, right? And this firsthand because we moved you, so you know firsthand.
Yeah, you moved me. He's moved my father. I mean, he's been moved. Yeah, when I've moved in multiple situations, Manny's been my guy. And it's funny because we do it as an industry. Like I help my sellers sell, and they're moving. And then when I had to do it myself, I was like, this is nuts.
Correct. It's different when it's you. Like I've moved myself now, and I'm like, yeah, I see it now.
Yeah.
So when I approach the situation, I meet with somebody, I genuinely have that handheld, I'm here to work with you. And for you, this is your second most stressful day. For me, it's Tuesday. But my goal is to never make you feel like it's Tuesday. I want you to feel like I know what you're feeling right now. I know what you're probably experiencing. And my goal is to take off as much weight off your shoulders as possible. And that's kind of my tailored approach with each client. And that's what I think gives me an edge. Because whenever I ask them, how do we compare not just in cost with the other company,
right,
but the overall experience? And that starts with the estimate. And they'll tell me, like, they didn't ask as many questions. They weren't thorough. They didn't ask what was the most important thing in the house.
Very like corporatized. And
Exactly.
very like, yeah.
And they're going, and it's sales. You're obviously chasing
Very
numbers.
salesy. It's very salesy. And
correct.
Yeah.
And every time I talk to them, like, you're not very pushy. And I'm like, going back to that point from working in finance, I don't have to be that guy anymore.
Right.
Because I already know you need to move. Now I just want to make sure you're working with your friend.
Right.
And if I can translate that in that interaction, I live by that one motto. You want to make $1 million, go make 1 million friends.
Mm-hmm.
And every interaction I go out and meet people, that's kind of my focus. How can I get to know this person a little more personally where it doesn't feel like I'm just trying to sell you something?
And that's, as you know, like the premise of this show, my first show, I was talking about how like this has been a sales business. Real estate has always been a sales driven business.
Right.
Down to the training. The training's always been about conversion, getting the sale. Like you said, it's all like insurance. It's all numbers. It's on to the next, and very, very sales based. And what I think a lot of business owners in this space miss is that you don't need to be so salesy.
Right.
And there are people out there that don't want that. And
Right.
there are people out there, I think that's how I built my business. I mean, that is how I built my business. I threw out the sales book. I threw out the
Right.
scripts. I was told that I would never be successful. And look, right? So that's what I love about you as well, because you understand that. And that's what's helped drive your business and you through this industry, because that stuff matters.
Right.
This is not all about numbers. These are people's lives and their chapters of their lives that it's not just about numbers. So once you do understand that,
Yeah.
and the reason why I'm doing this show too is to educate the agents, to help them realize it's not just the deal. It's not just the commission. It's not just writing that contract and filling in blanks. There's
Right.
a lot more to that, to
Correct.
it.
And everybody, we got to remember, like, we're all experiencing this life, right? And I think when I look at my role, like with obviously my position and obviously what we do with helping people move, we're moving their entire life. A lot of times, like, especially this year, it's been weird. I've been moving a lot of people that have been living in their homes like 30 plus years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the look in their eyes when I meet them, they're like, we don't know what to do, because it's been 30 years that we've been consistent. We've lived the same life. We have the same roof over our head. So now that we're literally uplifting all that and going somewhere new, you could see that weight on their shoulders. So like for me, when I meet them, it's genuinely, this is probably as scary as you could already obviously experience. But my goal is, how can we really experience this where it's not as scary as it seems, and kind of walking them through it. And that's my goal. And it's so funny because every time I do that and I ask questions in between, like, hey, how's it going? How are you feeling? You could immediately tell, like, this is great. And going back to your conversation about it's not sales, I get the deposit without even chasing it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, what's the next step again? Oh, that's right. We need a deposit. Exactly.
Right.
And that's when you realize you're just going through it and you're just enjoying the experience. So like for me, I get deals and I don't necessarily track, okay, did I get this one? But more so like, just trust the process, trust the systems.
Yeah, 100%.
And things will just work itself out.
100%. Love it.
So.
On the same page with you there. I love it. Yeah, no, definitely, I've love for you. You're great. You do a great job. So jumping into some questions, what would you say are some of the biggest mistakes people make when they're hiring movers? What do people need to think and look into, or, look out for?
Yeah. So I would say one of the bigger mistakes you can experience in moving is not getting an in-home estimate. A lot of times I get customers that tell me, hey, I got a price from another company. And my first response is not how much is it? It's, did they come in person? Because a lot of times when somebody's doing a virtual or over the phone estimate, there's so many details they're going to miss.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can look at a table and it may look like it's not heavy, but come to find out it might be solid wood or it might be a marble tabletop.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not going to get that. And more times than not, the customer's not going to tell you, oh, by the way, I have a sleeper sofa versus a
because they
regular
don't realize
sofa.
the implication of what that means on you, your team, the carrying of it, the protecting of it,
Correct.
all of that. Yeah.
Correct. And then you consider the property as well. If we're dealing with stairs, what kind of stairs? Is there a bend? Is there a tight turn?
Yep.
Right? Is there a long walk? Right? Because sometimes you're in an apartment complex and we find out that there's no loading dock, there's no reserved elevator.
Going halfway across the street.
You're going.
There's a condo in Fort Lauderdale that when we had to get stuff out of that condo, the Waverly,
Yeah.
It was like down the elevator, down like from the hallway, around the corner, up the stairs,
Right.
down the elevator, and then
Right.
back through the parking lot, out to the main
Yes,
road.
yes.
Like literally, these guys had to carry that stuff. It was insane.
Correct. And
Those
that's
are
still
things
the
they
best
don't
case
realize.
scenario compared to like Miami.
Oh, Miami, you can't even.
Oh my God. We've had jobs where you have to cross 2 parking lots
Oh my
to
God.
get to where we actually park the truck.
Oh my God.
So keep that in consideration. So whenever I talk to a customer, that in-home estimate is a absolute changer, because once you look at the cost difference of when I see it in person versus over the phone, there's a lot of savings or potentially a lot of cost that can happen by you not doing that.
And you
know?
go with the cheapest guy who shows up, and next thing you know, they're like, oh yeah, more. And you're like, oh, you're terrible. And
Correct.
all the stigma that comes out of that.
Correct. And the reality is, more times than not, a lot of guys, like we were talking about earlier, it's a transaction. So for you, it is just Tuesday and you are customer 1062.
Yeah.
So if you weren't prepared and you show up and you show up and there's more work that needs to be done, that's where a lot of times the bad guys take advantage.
Yeah.
And that's where you hear the bad rap, because they
Now
see
they
an
charge
opportunity.
me an extra $2,000
And
to
what are you
release
gonna
my
do?
stuff. And
What are you going to do? I just spoke to a guy today, funny enough, and I'm not going to name the company, but they're moving tomorrow. I got a call from a realtor. They're like, hey, can you help me out here? They're going to charge an additional $2,400 for a move tomorrow. They called today to let them know it's going to be an additional $2,400 before they even show up.
Why? Where did that come from?
Because
They
there was
discovered-
more items than what was originally planned for.
Mhm.
And they didn't wait to ask that until the day before the move.
Oh, okay.
So pretty much putting you in a back against the wall situation versus it being obviously known in advance because it wasn't an in-home estimate that was done. So going back to that conversation, it's huge. A lot of people overlook it, but in-home estimates, bar none, are necessary, especially if you're 3 bedrooms or more in your home. It's a suggestion, not even a suggestion. It should be a requirement, in my opinion. It's a requirement in our company.
When should someone start this process? And,
That's a good question. So I hope this can fall on as many ears as possible. 30 days is usually like our bare minimum, but I ideally would like 60 days. Even when I'm working with an agent, I always try to tell them, like, if you can at least get us in front of them once like things are starting to firm up a little bit, because the sooner we can find out and plan, at least they'll have a budget set aside
right.
for the move versus getting closer where their backs are against the wall trying to shop movers. And more times than not, the best crews are booked weeks in advance. So if like I have a client that wants to move on the last week of the month, that crew's already scheduled because that's the priority. Like that's prime time in moving.
Right.
Is the last week of the month, right? So I always try to tell people aim for 30 days, but if you can get 60 days, that's a sweet spot because we can actually negotiate and save you on more costs because it's all based on availability.
Right.
So look at it like seats on a plane. The closer we get to the date, less seats on the plane, more costs.
I think also that brings to mind when you plan earlier too, you may find yourself asking to move something and you think you're going to bring this armoire of sorts. And then they find out, like, when they get the quote, I've had this happen, but they get the quote and they're like, oh my God, like for me to move this to there, and I may as well just like donate this stuff and like buy new stuff, right?
Correct.
Like, so you may not know, like costs have gone up. It's not because people are charging more because they're gouging you. It's because the world has gone up. Things have gone up, right?
Correct.
So you may not have moved in 30 years and you think this move is going to cost you $200,000 to $3,000 and you're going cross country, and then they get a couple of quotes and they realize this number doesn't make sense. And they're like, all right, well, I've had this furniture for 30 years. It's old. Like I've had sellers that are like, give it to the buyer, donate it to somebody. I'm just going to buy new stuff because it doesn't make sense, right? So if you get in there earlier, you kind of educate yourself and know like what it means. And maybe you're not taking certain things. Maybe you are, because that's happened a lot with clients of mine.
100%.
Yeah.
And it happens more times than not. And like you said, it's good because now we can have those conversations. And that's another thing you get with me personally is I have no problem telling the customer, have you used it in the last 5-7 years?
Yeah.
No. Well, it's going to cost you to carry a lot of these things. So you really want to make the decision from now what you should take or what you shouldn't take.
100%. I've had sellers that have moved stuff and they paid so much money for the stuff and they didn't even realize that it didn't fit where they were going. And it was not, and then now they paid money to move it. And I mean, it's funny because you moved, oh my God. And I'm saying this like, because I did it. I moved the couch out of my house and brought it all, and Manny's team did it for me, and brought it to my house. And because I wanted the house to be vacant, totally. Like I could have put that thing in the garage. Now I have to have you guys come and move the couch to the condo that you moved in because we got rid of everything else. So like I personally was so flustered. I wasn't even thinking.
Right.
And my husband does want the couch though, but I don't want the couch. But anyway, like I probably would have done it differently if I would have not done it at like the last minute. So, yeah, for sure. What determines like the costs, right? Like what factors into these estimates? Like where are all these numbers coming from hourly rate to the packing costs? Like what?
So I won't bore you with the very specifics, but I'll keep it simple. So with like a local move, for example, we charge by the hour. Just so you know, some movers charge by the size of the job, and they could give you a flat rate. Now, sometimes I kind of advise against it. I can do it, but a lot of times most clients don't realize that if you change the scope by any means, the door now open to whatever cost they want to charge you.
Right.
So that's a little heads up. But hourly, it's all based on guys and our guy count. So when I show up and I estimate, I get a good idea of what we're moving, and that gives me the cubic footage. Mm-hmm. Once I get the cubic footage, I multiply that by 7, which is the formula to get the estimated weight. It's not precise. It's not 100%, but usually what we do is we'll add a little extra on top just to give it, a room for some shortfall.
Right.
And that make sure that the estimate's pretty solid. And that's how we estimate a local move. And that's by the hour because we now know how many guys are going to be needed for the job because we know how many pounds we can carry per guy. That'll give us that estimate. So there's a little science behind it. A lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
But we get it down to that exact box count because we want to know exactly how many hours it's going to take. And what I'll do as well from my experience, because when I started, I used to be like, it's going to be exactly 7 hours, Miss Johnson.
Oh, yeah. And you got to give wiggle room.
And the expectations are everything. If you set the right expectations, then the clients obviously have a great experience, which leads to raving fans, which is our end goal. But when I started, I used to give exact quotes, which, they're pretty accurate. But at the end of the day, there's things that we don't account for, like them adding an extra table or an extra chair. So me being wise, I said, you know what, let me extend it to a range.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because at least you'll know this is where you're going to fall within. And then I put it back on the customer to let them know, like, hey, the ball's still in your court. The more prepared you are, the less likely we stay out of this range. Because honestly, I can't surprise you if you don't surprise me. Because I've seen everything. So now I know exactly what your window is. So that's usually what I determine. And then if we're doing a long distance move, it's all based on weight and mileage. Mm-hmm. So once we know a destination, the mileage is fixed. But then, of course, the weight is the difference maker, which we find out when we do the estimate. And then once again, we provide that same range just to give people a confident window of here's what your expected cost will be.
So what is the difference between professional movers and the guy with the truck? What type of considerations should people think of when they're saying, I'm going to hire a moving company or I'm going to hire somebody? Like, speak to that.
Got it. So there's definitely a difference. I'm happy you brought that question. That's a good question. So I guess you could say white glove mover versus just like a mover, the guys that just have a truck. The big difference, in my opinion, is the approach. So when, for example, I'll give you an example of how we show up to a job and the equipment that we bring. For example, when we show up to a job, and let's say we're dealing with a townhouse that has stairs, we're laying down floor protection. Like up and down the property, you'll see floor protection through the main entrance points. You'll see the stairs get protected. If there's an actual staircase, we put coverage on the banister as well. And then we prioritize the property protection as well. So if there's door jams, we'll cover the door jams. If there's a threshold there, we'll put a ramp over the threshold. And I'm bringing up all these minuscule details because most movers don't do it. And you're a realtor. You know this firsthand.
My buyers did a walkthrough and there was like a bunch of tiles that were cracked and half the door jam had been removed. And then the seller was like, well, I'm not fixing it. I'm like, yes, you are.
Right. Correct. And that was you on the receiving end.
Yeah.
Now imagine you're on the opposite end and your seller's
like pissed.
This is the damages from their movers. And now you're dealing with the buyers that are upset. So these are things that I actually sell on because a lot of times most movers don't do that. And I'll make sure the client's aware because most movers will just show up and they'll move items. And what drives me up the wall more, like what I think should be the benchmark is you wrap all your furniture. I've seen videos with local guys in the area. They don't wrap furniture. They'll just stretch wrap the furniture and call that wrapped. That doesn't keep anything from piercing that item, doesn't keep items from actually getting damaged. Stretch wrap is really just like cling wrap.
Right.
It's not actual protection.
Yeah.
So for us, that's our standard, whereas for most people, it's not. And then another thing, too, is the equipment that we bring. We try to aim to make sure all of our equipment is up to par. So we'll use things like heavy safe lifts, where it's actually made for heavier items. And then when we come with our actual trucks, we aim for newer trucks because I can't tell you how many times trucks can break down. So these are questions that as an educated buyer, you'd actually can weed out a lot of the guys that aren't really fit to do the job. If you ask questions like, what year is your truck, right? It may seem minuscule, but if it's a truck from 2007 and it's your move and it's on the hour and it's breaking down or it's giving you issues or you're going long distance,
True.
so it's things like that that most people don't realize. And then the other thing that I think really sets us apart is insurance.
I was just about to say that. I was just about to ask you how many people out there and in any industry are running their business like a business or like a side hustle.
Yeah.
And
Correct. That right there is probably the biggest one. Like, for example, I'll give you the easiest one that'll separate most movers, workers' comp. Most movers do not carry workers' comp. What that means is if someone gets injured on the job at your house and that owner or company doesn't have workers' comp, you are automatically on the hook legally for that potential lawsuit.
Yep.
Most people don't know that. The other thing is the actual general liability. Should anything happen with the actual move, let's say the truck catches on fire, you name the wildest stories. Like, let's say you're moving out of a apartment complex, they knock over a fire hose.
Yes.
And they soak the building. They break the
elevator in the condo. That happened to one of mine. It wasn't mine. It was the seller on one of my buyers. And the elevator was broken. And,
and they look straight to the mover
owner
first.
The mover, if they have nothing, right?
And if they have nothing and you're customer 1006, and they say, well, good luck with that. And now they have to contact you as the person that's living there. So these are the things that I think generally separate movers because a lot of times they don't. And the labor, the quality of labor. I tell people we pay the same for trucks. We pay the same for material. The only thing that we don't pay the same cost for is labor. And I tell people, well, if you're getting a cheaper quote, all you just told me is that you have cheaper labor.
Right.
Because we're paying the same for everything else.
Right. True.
So if there's one thing that's going to separate us, it's who I get to afford to show up to do this move.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, legit quality movers are not cheap.
Yeah.
Because think about it. To wake up every day and say, I'm going to be a mover.
It's a hard job.
Right.
Crap, dude. Like the amount is, it's no joke.
Correct.
I was watching them do some things. I'm like,
correct.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not easy.
No.
And, taking care of people, paying the right, that's key. Like
yes.
your people are you.
Correct.
And taking care of them and paying them the right amount. And then also I'm gonna put a plug. Like you run a great team. You were always, your people have been great. And I had a situation where they found something I didn't know about that was lost for some time. And it was very expensive. And they gave it to me.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
They could have taken it.
Correct.
It was a very expensive item.
Yes.
That was lost,
yes.
that I even replaced and was so excited. And so that's one thing that really, speaks volumes about, people in the leadership and having the right people and working with the right people. Yeah. Correct. And the insurance, when you guys are out there, regardless, not movers, anyone who's doing work in your house, keep in mind that if you're giving somebody who does not have insurance, and as a realtor, if you're referring people that don't have insurance, that don't have the things that they need to have, and something happens in that person's house, that's right. That's on you.
Correct.
So, you might say, oh, the electrician was charged too much for the fan. It's like, yes, but at the same time, that electrician or that plumber has a legit business. That's why they have a truck, they have insurance, they have all these things they're supposed to have. Someone who's not in that space, doing it correctly, of course they could charge you less.
Yeah.
It costs money to run a legitimate business.
Thank you. You could have said it better. And I'll give you a real life example to that point, right? So I was just talking to a buddy, he's in the industry as well. Mm-hmm. And he was telling me about a previous guy that he knew that was in the industry as well. Good guy, did good business, and he didn't have workers' comp. He had a guy that was moving a glass tabletop up and down the stairs. Glass falls out of one of the mover's hands, explodes on the floor. But glass isn't breaking bits and pieces, it breaks in shards.
Yeah.
The shards slit the inside of his thigh. Yeah. And that person, of course, understanding insurance and knowing the right attorneys, asked for $350,000. And that guy had none of that available. Yeah. Out of business, just like that.
No, you gotta do the right things. And unfortunately, when you're, what is it? Penny foolish, dollar wise, penny foolish, say, you end up you pay way more later.
Correct.
So yes, when you are looking for a mover, anyone of a trade that should have some sort of insurance, anyone that's doing work in your house, you might think it's inconsequential. Like, okay, they're painting, but they're on a ladder.
Right.
And next thing you know, they're not.
Correct. And it goes both ways. Like, obviously you want to protect the client's interest, but at the same time, as a legit owner, you would want to make sure that your guys are taken care of.
You want to make sure you want to make sure that you have the
proper things in place, right?
To pay for that injury and take care of them because they're doing job on your time and for you, and accidents happen.
Exactly. And I think that's what it is. That was a genuine accident. Ultimately how far they may want to sue you is a whole nother conversation, but ultimately it was an accident that happened on the job. So I think that's something I take pride in. I realized when I started, I would try to say, okay, well, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I know the price is cheaper over there. We'll see what we can do. Right. Whereas now I'm like, no, there's real costs associated with this business that most people don't recognize, but it's not on them to not realize it. It's just more so finding the right customer that understands that value.
Same with our business as realtors.
Right.
Some people may think we're all interchangeable and we all just do the same menial random tasks that don't have any value.
Right.
Obviously, we were sued, NAR lawsuit, all that. Where'd that come from? That came from not doing a good job showing the value.
Right.
And so, yes, you might have an agent that might charge X or might charge Y or do things differently. If they have the substance behind it,
right,
then just like, you go and work as an employee at a company and you feel compelled to have to change jobs and have another employer and you want a salary raise. Like, why? Right. So everyone is out there, bringing the value that they bring. And so it's about chasing that value and understanding, what it costs and the risks.
Yes.
The risks.
Yeah. It's real life.
Yeah, no, for sure. As far as like red flags, like things that you should look for. So asking for insurance, asking proof of insurance. What are some things that a owner should, a seller or buyer, whoever's moving, should be looking for? Or spot like things that would be a red flag.
So I'm going to give some elite ones. I think that'll help really weed them out quicker. And I think it benefits the right people in the industry and the ones that are generally trying to do good business. So for example, let's say, God forbid, something happens on a job, we damage an item. There's something called valuation. It's not insurance. Movers don't sell insurance. I'll put that out on the record. We don't sell insurance. We sell full replacement value coverage.
Right.
Which is just an idea where either we self-insure, meaning we cover our costs out of pocket, or we go through our insurance provider, given that it's an item that may be higher than internally being resolved. Now, most movers sell that as an additional option because the one that we're required to offer is called limited liability.
Right. Okay.
Limited liability in English is we'll give you up to $50 for anything that we break. And that's based on weight. And that weight is based at 60 cents a pound. So let's say that TV behind you, the most you'll probably get for it is $12 if you're lucky. Right. Most people don't know that. That's the standard. But the thing is, how many movers actually sell the replacement costs? Very few. Because one, they don't want to cover the costs. Number two, they're banking on your ignorance because they understand most people don't ask that question. So an easy red flag, are they talking about it? Are they bringing it up? Because if they're not, more than likely than not, they don't want to offer it or they don't have it to offer because you have to have money to do it, right? So if somebody's not bringing that up, that's a telltale sign that they don't even have the coverage or you should avoid them. And if they don't, ask the question and find out what they're willing to do. And most times, if you find out that they can only offer the limited liability, well, now the question is, do you want to be moved by somebody that's only willing to offer you $12 for a TV that they may break?
Yeah.
And I think that's a great way to tell. The other thing is going back to that conversation, the other insurances, workers' comp, asking about those things. I think that's always a great ad. And then asking, are your guys' background check? This is a little small one.
Yeah.
The easy answer is obviously you're going to hear people that say yes or no, but now you got them legally on the hook. If they said that they were and something happens that requires somebody that didn't pass a background check, you have an angle to defend yourself should you go that far. So a lot of times people don't realize asking that question is important. So we pride ourselves in making sure that everybody's background check because we get into some nicer homes. You know this, right? Working with you. There's some homes that you never know what you're going to come across. Like you said, coming across something expensive in your home. We want to make sure that we can be everybody held accountable and that there's actual documentation for each person we work with.
Right.
Because a lot of movers, newsflash, aren't always documented.
Right.
And that leaves the customer at risk because if they have to get police involved, we don't know who to find because that guy's a ghost on paper. So these are things that I tell people that are huge red flags that I'll tell you.
Very good. Very good.
So the other one is actually being registered with the Department of Transportation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the US DOT. So you should ask every mover you work with, do you have that number available? Because if they're not registered with the state, then more than likely or not, they're not allowed to move in general.
That brings me to thinking. So before I hire people, I know a lot about people.
Yeah, I bet.
We have a cool little feature that realtors get that was through the Florida Realtors Association that we get. And it's a background check type of app. That I can look up anything with
I've heard
phone
about
number.
that.
It's
That's
great.
a really good one. Yes.
Oh, it's great. So yeah, that's something that I will do on people. I will also go and look and see the company in Sunbiz. See if there is a company,
right.
First of all, right? So you might be signing with H&G LLC.
Right.
And when you go into Sunbiz, ain't no H&G LLC.
Right.
Like, and I mean, I'm not making this shit up. Like I've had that happen and they're like, oh, we're in the process of like, really? Okay.
Correct.
So I will check people on the Sunbiz, and if they are not a Florida corporation, it's different. So we ask those questions.
Right.
And then I'll also look, cause this happens a lot. This happens a lot with contractors. And oddly enough, on Facebook, I've been getting so many alerts in Palm Beach County with contractors getting sued for not doing work. This is like the third one in the last week. I don't know what it is.
But they'll get the deposit though.
But they got the deposit, but there's like there's like police cases on someone was doing a kitchen the other day, $6,000. He disappeared, right? And so it's so funny. Recently, there's been so much of that. But what I will do is I'll go into the Sunbiz. I'll see that, see that about them. And then I'll look at their name and I'll see if they owned any other companies. So if you are, a contractor or a mover or a plumber or some sort of industry that has that, right? I will look and see the name of that registered person and anyone affiliated. And I'll see if they had other companies and why they don't anymore.
Right.
Very common, I feel like, also in kind of like that kind of industry where people had this business and then like they went through a shit show of a lawsuit. I'll also look at like county records to see if the company had been listed in any litigation.
Correct.
At least in the counties that are around here.
Yes.
So you can pull up, the company's name and you can see that Jose Schmo sued them. And then you're like, ooh, wait a second, maybe
What's
not.
This?
Right? So those are just some kind of like Nicole's crazy and like digs into everything.
No, you're not wrong.
But right? Like, no, you don't think about that until you're the one who's trying to figure out why your contractor didn't show up.
Correct.
And then next thing you know, you Google and you did something and you went into the court record and they got sued by someone in Palm Beach County for doing something similar to you.
Correct.
So how do you get ahead of it? And I think that's where I want to push, like being smarter about these things, because people can say whatever they want to say.
Yes.
People can say that they're the best of anything. And my industry is like number one, top 1%, like top agent of whatever. Like you can say whatever you want to say.
Yes.
But can you show on the back end like all that stuff?
Everything
like how
checks
do you
out.
prove that?
That's good. So there's two numbers you have that'll make you an official mover: the DOT and the MC number, motor carrier number. Those are two things that you have to apply to actually be able to operate as a moving company.
Okay.
And then, of course, you got to get your business licenses to operate in a specific city. But those are two numbers you have to get registered so that you can actually register as an actual moving company. And to your point, there's things called fly-by-night moving companies. These are guys that run through the same DOT numbers because they're dealing with active issues, litigation, you name it. And they're just burning and churning through numbers because they're just trying to get by. And these are things that you got to be mindful of because it'll tell you how many violations they have. So if you go on a DOT search, you can actually look up the record of that actual mover.
Okay.
See their history of complaints, history of...
this is all good stuff, guys, right? Like things you don't think about, but yet people complain and you guys have a horrible rap, right?
Right.
So we're trying to give you stuff out there to like, how do you combat this?
Correct. And this may sound like tedious work to do, but remember, you're not moving for another 8 years. So if you're going to do this one experience, be as mindful as you can, because like you said, why go through 8 years of being comfortable where you're at to finally move and give your stuff over to someone who's going to put you through hell?
Yeah, no, it's, I'll teach classes to agents and I do a lot of due diligence of things beforehand. Like before we make the offers, before we take the listings, I do permit searches. I do all this stuff. Even before we show listings, if it's a condo buyer and I know that the condo won't be able to do 25%, like I dig into this, right?
Right.
So people will say, oh my God, that's so much work. I'm like, well, how much more work is it that you spent 3 hours on a Saturday showing 6 units in a condo building that you just gave me an offer on my listing and homie can't buy the house
That's crazy.
because he does not like, did you even read my remarks that said that we cannot finance this under 25%?
Right.
And you gave me an offer for 3%, like a 3.5% FHA. Like, are you serious?
Right.
Like, so yes, you might think that I'm doing all this due diligence. Like you said, it might seem tedious, but when you do a little bit of that extra work in the front,
Peace of mind.
You protect yourself from like a complete shit show at the end.
Exactly.
And that's something that I built my business around is like, I'd rather spend that time sitting on my couch last night,
Right.
checking out things than literally showing them 9 listings on Saturday. I'm going
Yes.
out with somebody. I've checked that now, yes, we can get this place done.
Right.
He said, the buyer could send me all these listings and say, I want to see all this. And most people are like, all right, let's go. And then after, time is money. Your time is valuable. My son's time is valuable. Being
Right.
home is valuable. I'm not going to come and back, so
And deal with all the headaches.
it's not tedious. The alternative
It's
of what's happening is
more
way
work.
worse.
Way more work.
Way more work.
And it's funny you say that. The most peaceful people I know are the most proactive people.
Yeah.
Because they understand, I don't want to put my future self through that headache. Better to do the work now.
Yeah. No, 100%. And in this industry, I think it is definitely important.
Much so needed.
Yeah. So speak to a little bit about like some experiences you've had and like the emotional side of, because I'm sure, you're like you said, it's an emotional time. Like we're realtors, we're like psychologists, like quote unquote, right? Like we're helping so, speak a little bit about that and like different types of transitions that you see, different stages of lives and,
So I think it's a blessing and a curse that I take the time to really know and meet all my customers because I get to meet cool people, interesting people. And there's sometimes where you get to meet some really sad stories at the worst times in their lives. And one of the ones that I can think of is I moved a client, I think it was about a year ago. And here local, Coral Springs, and recently widowed. His wife passed away unexpectedly and left with a huge home and nothing but memories. We're at the appointment table. We're sitting down. We're talking, planning everything out. And we're talking through like getting rid of things and how to purge, how to transition. And he just breaks down in front of me, like full blown tears. And I'm just like, wow. Like, and I get like the full circle experience of life where like obviously I pray I never have to go through stuff like that. But like witnessing people go through those experiences and it's like, it's not about just selling a move at this point.
Right.
Like, how do I meet this guy in this moment? And a lot of times it's just talking to him. And I just speak life in those situations. And it's like, wow, this is real. This is a lot. Like, this is heavy. And, in that situation, we worked through it. We talked through it. And we were able to finish still the planning and execution. And at the very end, he gave me a call back when we finished moving him up to Orlando area. He wanted to be closer to his kids.
Mm-hmm.
And he called me back and he says, Manny, that was probably one of the hardest times of my life. And you genuinely were genuine, because that was his biggest thing. Because he was shopping like the bigger names, guys who have been around a long time. And he was leaning towards them because obviously it built that reputation. But I was a referral. And he said, you know what? I went with you because I just felt obviously like a genuine interaction. So when it goes to that emotional side, there is a lot of weight to those situations and really meeting them. The other one is like elderly couples that have been there 40 plus years. They are genuinely scared.
It's scary.
Like it's like, and a lot of times the other thing I get like the eye opener is people transitioning into the senior communities.
So I was going to ask you, so while you're talking about that, I'm thinking, I do a lot of senior-based business. I do a lot of probate, unfortunately. I do, seniors that are downsizing and seniors. That is my specialty. I'm working towards a very high-level designation in that space. And there are, so the movers, right? And then there's movers that help and do things like for seniors and all that. So you were saying, like, do you have the capability to offer that extra
100%.
service?
Yes.
Because it's not typically the case. And that's why we have like senior move managers and things like that. Or do you partner with certain people in certain instances? Speak more about that, like what you were getting into. Yeah.
So we actually, we've specialized. So where there's a group called NASM, National Association of Senior Move Management.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So we got designated in that. I'm redesignating now with a new company, just so you know.
Great.
And I've now been working with seniors in that transitionary situation in their lives for like the last 4 years. Mm-hmm. And I've seen it all. You get the dementia clients. You have clients that are just elderly, that are like I said, they're scared of the transition. And I've now gotten to a point where we have a system where I work with other move managers. And I just partner up and I'm more of the muscle. But I think the blessing is that I'm also understanding of what's going on.
Right.
A lot of times move managers, when I work with them in the past prior to working with me, they're like, it's always hard to find people that like understand what's going on versus just showing up and just sending guys.
Because they're helping the emotional, they're helping getting the stuff from the house and fitting it into their new place. They're helping with the downsizing and sitting there to unpack and then pack and dispose.
Yes.
So there's a lot more of that, but having a mover, they all have movers, right? So that's...
And your appointment, which usually would be about 40 minutes, maybe an hour to hour and a half.
So
they're elderly.
My listing appointments, my husband always jokes, my listing appointments are like 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
I come home, I'm like, I know about everything. I'm their honorary grandchild. Like my husband's like, real. Like I've even told agents, they're like, your appointments are like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. I'm like, yeah, a lot of them are. Like, really? Like, I'm like, yeah, like... yours are not? Oh, and it dawned on me, like, that was just me.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's what comes with it. And I think most movers, because it's like we're so busy, it's hard for us to slow down.
Yeah.
So like because of that NASM certification, I've learned if the client's repeating themselves, why does the lady keep repeating herself? No, that's right.
There's nuances. Issues. Yeah. It's not just
stuff
about
like
business.
that I've become more conscious of, and I'm thankful for it. And now I can confidently say, like, I'm as sharp as it gets when it comes to helping people in that situation, because now my experience not only doing it, but working with those move managers where we help downsize, we help with donations, we help with disposal, we help with floor planning. So when they get into a new community, they're not trying to take everything, right? And then we have situations where it's somebody that passes away in like a probate situation, and we work with all the heirs, and we can ship items anywhere, everywhere, wherever. You know, I just helped the family that both parents passed in the same week, which was crazy.
Holy.
Right. Both parents passed in the same week. And I walked in not knowing that it was both parents. I knew one parent had passed. And then I got to the front desk. The lady's like, oh, yeah, by the way, such and such passed yesterday. And I'm like, whoa. So I'm walking in. But fortunate for us, that family was like the most well-knit family you could run across. And they had everything planned out and figured out. And we were able to come in there and like execute. And there's some situations where one brother's telling me, hey, I need you to do this because I don't want this sister to find out. And I have to find a way to make sure legally I protect the interests of who I was referred by, which is the probate attorneys involved, right? So there's things like that where I've become more versed and understand how to approach it so that when we meet them, we know how to transition. And then there's also like divorce matters where that's my least favorite. But ultimately that stuff does happen where I'm taking this, you take that, we're taking this, and I'm in the middle of the room and they're just getting after it. And I'm like, okay, I understand you guys are frustrated, but what I'll do now is let's actually just put a list together. And then what I'll do is have you guys separate it and send it back to me. Because I don't need this right here. Nor do you guys need this right now either. So being able to be versed in those situations versus being more standoffish and being transactional.
Yeah. No, it is important. What would you say about like packing and, you know, when people hire you and they're giving you boxes and they packed it like crap and then it breaks? Like, what's the consideration with that? So the mover that didn't pack versus the move that did have the mover pack?
Yeah. I think my superpower too is like I like educating, because I'll make sure even if you don't do business with me, you'll know more about moving than you ever did before.
Yeah.
So that you never make the same mistakes that most people make. So one of the easy conversations I have with customers when they're like discussing packing, if you pack, you're fully responsible. That's not an all things moving thing. That's a moving industry standard, because we don't know how you packed it.
Exactly.
And if you haven't moved in 8 years, likely you haven't packed in a while. So you may not know how to pack. So I like to tell people, like, if you keep that in consideration, you may want to choose what you pack. Because if you're a busy mom or a busy entrepreneur, packing is the last thing on your list.
Yeah.
You know, so you're rushing the kitchen, you're rushing, packing all the fragiles. We show up, all we can do is just load the boxes and move.
Yeah.
But if they're packed poorly and they break, that's on you. So some advice or tips that I'll give away for free. When you're packing plates, don't lay them flat, lay them vertical. Mm-hmm. Right? Because a lot of people don't realize when you're laying them flat, weight weighs down, plates crack.
True.
When they're standing vertical, they're at their strong suit. Same thing with cups, glass, stemware, standing up in the box vertically. Extra paper on the bottom, on the sides, on the top. Shake the box. If you don't hear anything, you've got a good box. If you hear rustling, you got a problem. Call Manny. He'll fix the rest. Don't worry about it. But I tell people, don't overlook an estimate for packing. Honestly, life goals, just so you know, is hiring packing services. You know, everybody talks about life goals. One of the good life goals is getting packing services, because a lot of people don't realize, like, yes, is it more money? Of course. But if you think about the peace of mind of not worrying about it and that it's going to get done right, It's the best. And I tell people, once you order a pack service, you're never going back.
Do you offer an unpack service?
We do.
Okay. Yeah.
So for example, we're kind of selective on how
Depends.
yeah, exactly. Like situationally, because we're really primarily unpacking and placing it on the counter.
Right.
And you'll still have to place it back.
Okay.
Now we can go into like maid service level where we're putting it back where it needs to go, but then it becomes more costly. So what I'll do is I partner up with organizers.
Yeah.
And
or like the senior move managers. That's where it's really used.
Exactly. And that's a way more fluid process where they'll come in, unpack, and then we'll come back and pick up all the boxes and dispose of it.
Yeah.
And that, once again, if you can get to that level where you can experience all of that, you will never move unlike that again. I move,
concierge.
yeah. I'll move like people that have moved with corporate relocations. And because the corporate relocation did all that for them and they're not moving again with the corporate relocation, they still want that.
Oh, yeah, it's true. They do it very
because they know how good it was. They don't want to go back. Like, once you understand, like, you really just watch your whole house move and you didn't do a thing, you're not going back to that. So,
because it's painful. I mean, listen, I moved 2 years ago. Moved my father-in-law into my place, moved him out of that place, selling that place.
Yeah.
And when I moved 2 years ago, you guys helped me. But I live I live 30 minutes away. I didn't finish that move because my father-in-law was living in that house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm back there now.
Yeah.
Trying to get all the rest of the stuff out, and I put it on for 2 years.
Right.
So I'm like thinking like, oh God, now I have to go back to it. It's dreaded, right? It's dreadful.
So the rule of thumb, just so you know, the average person isn't fully unpacked for like 2 years.
So when I did move, because you guys helped me with the heavy stuff, I specifically didn't do the box situation because I know how I am.
Yeah.
My ADHD would not allow it. So I literally moved the other stuff like car to like closet. Like, so, I mean, I had like laundry baskets and I had like the plates and stuff with towels in the laundry baskets in my back seat. And we did like 4 or 5 runs because I told my husband it's not going to accumulate.
Yeah.
And I was intentional about that.
That's
like
good.
That was one thing that I was like, I'm not going to have boxes hanging out. Plus, not for anything, but like, cardboard and like roaches, like bugs and stuff.
Right.
So I did not do that because I would never be able, it would still be there.
Right.
It would still be there.
You're probably a part of the people that keep the average low.
Yeah.
Because I just did an estimate where they moved 5 years ago and they still have boxes
I've
from
sold
the last move.
houses that have had boxes still in the garage.
Right.
And then that, being in this industry, doing mostly senior real estate, doing a lot of downsizing, do a lot of probate and seeing condos that have like sets of like 16 plates. Like you don't even have room for 16 humans in the condo, but we have 16 plates and 16, glasses. How is that? So I've learned through my time of just like the whole, what is it, Marie Kondo, where they like less is more and like all that. I've like adopted that myself, and less is, if you haven't used it a certain amount of time, get rid of it. Like minimalist, exactly. That word was evading me. That minimalism is so liberating. It's like cathartic to get rid of stuff and know that you might be able to help others. Like you're going to donate this.
Correct.
Like so I've really adapted over the years in my own way because I've seen it, and I'm like, I'm cleaning it out. I'm helping with those clean outs with some, families where the children are not here, and I'm helping them and I'm putting it out for the donations, and I have a service for that as well. But I've seen so much of that I'm like, no, I can't do this. So with my move, I made my husband, we went through all the cabinets. We went through the furniture that you moved, the actual bed furniture, like all those drawers, like I looked through them before and things were thrown out. Like you did not move stuff until we looked through all those drawers and emptied things out or got rid of it. Nate's toys, like he had to get rid of that stuff before we left. Yeah. We did a whole purging and clean out, and it's great because then you go to the place and now you're like, ooh, it's all nice, right? Right. So, that's
something I always say. Before you pack anything, purge.
Yeah, purge.
Like spend as much time as you can actually purging than packing. People don't realize because you're just taking things and stuff. Yep. And if you generally haven't touched in years, there's no need for it.
Right.
I just helped a client, elderly, and it was the hardest thing. They were moving from, which is crazy, 7,000 square feet to 5,000 square feet. Oh. I know. And they didn't want to let go of anything. Yeah. And that was a game of Tetris.
So that reminds me, so my son, when he was about 5 or 6 years old, I was helping him clean, making him clean out. And maybe it was when we moved. No, it was before that. He needed to clean out his toys. And he said to me, he's like, Mommy, I know I need to donate these because, then I'll be able to get new things and my old things can go to kids that don't have anything. But I'm just going to miss my stuff. So I have an idea, and my kid's like super precocious. He was young. He was like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
He said, I think, Mommy, if you can maybe like take a picture with me and like the toy and we can have like an album of pictures of me and like the toy, then I can remember the toy and I can give it away.
Right.
And I was like, this kid's onto something. That's brilliant.
Yeah. So
since then, it's been years. It's been years now. I've been telling clients like, listen, I get it. Mom left all these things. Like, take the few things that really matter, that you remember them by. And then with the other stuff, take pictures of it.
Yeah.
Take pictures of it.
Yeah. I've even had, so when I went to NASM, their conference, I took a course there and they gave a good piece of advice. So like, for example, like say you get left with all your mother's heirlooms and things that she left behind for you. First and foremost, they already know that you don't want to keep most of it. Just so you know, they don't. I've met people on the other side before they get to that point. They're like, they don't even want all this stuff. And I'm just trying to keep it all. And a lot of times people don't realize like you feel like that burden to carry it with you. And what they advised was better is consolidate all that and choose one thing that you think just commemorates the person that you're keeping that stuff for, and let everything else go.
Yeah.
And for some people that maybe everybody has that one thing that they know is like that prize. This is what reminds me of mom or dad, whoever it may be, and keep that one thing. And that'll actually be a lot more freeing than carrying everything else. Right. Because remember, we're not taking it with us.
No, you're not. Clearly, they didn't take it with them. They left it behind.
Exactly, they left it behind, right? So why carry all that? And then that piece may be something you keep on your mantle or somewhere that you can actually see constantly. Because I've moved people where it's a closet full of stuff, and it's in a closet. And I remember the lady opened it. She's like started to tear up a little bit about it, and I'm like, you don't have to live with that burden, because she felt embarrassed. Yep. Because she's like, I know I should be letting go of all this stuff, but I just feel like I have to carry it with me.
China, old China.
Oh
I can't tell you how much China has gone from generation to generation. No one's touched the China.
This is a public statement.
Public statement. Nobody wants your China.
Are out.
Nobody wants your China.
Them.
And you don't have to feel like you need to, like take a teacup, take a little plate. Like whatchamacallit under the plate. I can't think of the word. And that's it. Then let that be part of it, right? And then donate the rest. No one's paying for it either. I promise you. No one's buying it.
You don't even use it. That's my thing.
You're not going to use it.
Right.
And totally. Freeing. So, Manny, thank you so much. This was wonderful. Always love to hang out with you. I'm so glad you were able to join and help drop some knowledge. Tell the public out there where they can hit you guys up, find you if they need help with a move. Give them some information where they can find you.
So I'm on several platforms. You can find me on Instagram primarily. That's my go-to, Manny the Mover. And I actually just got it trademarked. So it's on the 13th.
Yay.
We're official. So that'll be fun. And then on Instagram as well, where our company page is All Things Moving FL. And that's our company page. And you can find us on Facebook as well with our Facebook group. And just reach out to us. We're always willing to work with anybody. No job is too big, no job is too small. We're obviously working with anybody, and we're here to help. So follow us on social media. We're big on there. We love to connect, and let's make it happen.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me here. Everyone out there, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you were able to get some nuggets out of this one. Share, like. The goal is to make sure that the information gets out there. And if you have any questions, as always, you can reach out to me. And thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Too many tools, too much stress, and way too many bills.
Odoo replaces it all. One connected platform for every part of your business, so you can work faster, smarter, and for less. Odoo, the only software you'll ever need. Try it free today at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.